Fighting the virus with one shot. The drug maker Johnson & Johnson filing for emergency use authorization for its COVID-19 vaccine, making it potentially the third vaccine we'll have enter the U.S. market. And here now with the very latest on that is Dr. Mark McClellan, a former FDA commissioner and member of the board at Johnson & Johnson. Dr. McClellan, it's always great to have you on the show. I know we've talked about 100 million doses of J&J's vaccine being ordered by the U.S. government. When does that come online? How soon can it be done? And how does this change the dynamic, in your view, of what we're dealing with in the United States?
Well, Connell, first, the FDA has to complete its very detailed and intense review of all of the data from this very large 45,000-person trial. Has to have it reviewed by their independent advisory board. That group is going to meet on February 26th. If that all goes well, if it's like what happened with the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, the J&J vaccine could be available within just a matter of days after that advisory meeting, so starting in March. And J&J is on track for something like 30 million plus doses in March and another 30 million per month after that, getting up to 100 million plus by June. As you said, it's one dose, so that's 100 million Americans vaccinated by the June timeframe, on top of all the vaccination that we can potentially do with the additional Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. So that's really going to get the vaccine availability up in the second quarter.
What would you say to people who end up receiving this vaccine? Because up until now, just for the general person that is signed up to be vaccinated, they pretty much know that they're getting the same type of technology. If they get the Pfizer vaccine, they get the Moderna vaccine, it's the same type of technology. It's a 2-dose vaccine. This, to your point, is 1 dose. It tested very well in terms of either keeping people out of the hospital and keeping people alive. 100% rate, I believe. It was obviously phenomenal. Then there were questions brought up about the South African variant of the virus with a 57% efficacy rate against moderate to severe disease there. So what would you say overall to people who are reading all of this and just trying to make sense of how this vaccine compares to the others?
Well, I think the first thing I'd say is watch what happens with the review at the FDA over the next few weeks, and that public meeting that's going to come up about 3 weeks from now. Because all of those kinds of questions are going to be discussed in detail by the FDA staff, who are experts, by a whole set of independent expert reviewers before the FDA makes a decision. So that's going to provide a lot more insights about it. I think it's important, though, Connell, to remember that the virus is changing. So as you said, a trial in South Africa especially had this new variant, which is more worrisome. It's easier to transmit. It tends to cause more serious symptoms, we think. And the virus still, the vaccine still prevented all of the very serious complications. No one went to the hospital who got that vaccine, but we're going to have to keep watching, and there is already work going on with Pfizer and Moderna to see if they need to modify theirs just to make sure it stays really effective as the virus continues to mutate. And it's just a reminder that the more people we can get vaccinated as quickly as possible, the less chance there is for the virus to mutate, the easier it's going to be to control this pandemic.
Okay, so to that point, how does all of this affect your estimates, which are tough to do on a rolling basis, on the timing of when we can control the pandemic? I'll just give you an example. I had a conversation with the guys on the show a lot the other day. He's a kind of logistics expert named Brandon Daniels, and he was saying that, that he thinks the high-risk population in the country can be vaccinated, and the high-risk population can pretty much be dealt with by the spring, and then by the summer we'll have broad enough vaccination that we'll be able to, quote, this is his quote, explode our economic growth. Are you kind of in a similar line of thinking there, or is the variance and all this kind of thing, has that changed the way you look at things?
You know, this is a complex process, but I think that the likelihood, if the J&J vaccine is approved, of having enough vaccine available for any American who wants to get it to be able to do so by June or sooner is very high. Because remember, there are a couple of other vaccines also in development, Novavax and AstraZeneca. The challenge, Connell, that goes along this is going to be twofold. Number one, we have to keep increasing the availability of shots in arms. So we're averaging about 1 1.3 million doses per day now. If we want to get to all 260 million adults who are eligible for these vaccines by June, that number is going to have to climb a lot, closer to 3 million per day to keep that on track. And then second, remember, there are a lot of Americans who aren't yet sure about the vaccine. This all happened fast. If you look at surveys, particularly minority populations, people in more rural areas, Republicans, there's still some real issues to address to help people get informed and make a decision to get us to those very high numbers of Americans vaccinated.
Right. All right. Fair enough. As usual, thank you very much for coming on, Dr. Mark McClellan. He's a former FDA commissioner. He's on the board at Johnson & Johnson as we wait for that vaccine. Thank you, sir.